Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am, of course, your host, Tony Jameson, and joining me as always is the one and only Rich Owens. Rich, how the devil are you, buddy?
I am very well, thank you, pal. Very, very well indeed. How are you doing, mate? Are you well?
I am very well because, loyal listeners will know, we record these on Saturday nights. I got the kids down to sleep at 6:20 in record time. 9 minutes. 9 minutes it took me. And for everyone who's watching on YouTube, Rich Owens' face suggests that his bedtime routine was slightly longer.
Ever so slightly. Hour and 45 minutes in, I got up and walked away and came to record a podcast because I was like, no, I don't have time for this or you. Colossal burdens. Mrs. O's out on the sauce tonight. She's out having a few drinks with her friends. So she's left me to fly solo parenting. And what a horrible decision she's made. She's just not thought this through in any capacity.
She knew what she was marrying. That's the
she
thing,
did.
You know?
She knew what she was booking. Exactly.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to lie and say that it's all been roses this week, though, because it's been one of those parenting weeks, to be honest, where it's been quite heavy. It's been quite heavy, and it got to the point. I've already tweeted this out, by the way. So it got that bad this week that today Mrs. J asked whether horses make milk, and I just couldn't respond. just when you look at someone, it's like, I'm just going to walk away. Like, it's just all I can do at this point is walk away, pretend I haven't heard it, and just go, I think there's a noise outside. And
I'd ask for elaboration. I'd be like, no, stay with your thought, and let's build on it together.
Yeah, you don't want to do that though, because you know that the next words out of her mouth is, "We're not full horses, but like Shetland ponies."
Yeah, we're not talking Grand National winners. I'm not mad. No,
not all horses, obviously. Just the milk producing ones.
Yeah, just the milky horses, the milky horses.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a bit of an idea as to where we are this week. So anyway, we've done all that. It's been a week. We are, of course, on a brand new, fresh week, and we are joined with a fantastic guest. Everybody, we are so delighted to welcome the United City FM. Kev, how are you?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Really happy to be here is how I am, to be honest. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. Let's see where it goes. Hey, but yeah, thank you for letting me be here.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure, man. We've wanted you on for a while. We're delighted we can get the conversation going. And to be fair, we don't know where it's going to go either. So that's part of the joy, I suppose.
All good with me.
Right. So before we get started, though, we do have to, unfortunately, reference one thing that's happened in the FM community this week. Of course, loyal listeners and viewers will know where we stand when it comes to matters of hatred with regards to representation, with regards to gender, sexuality, disability, race, religion. We don't stand for it, to be honest. And there's been a few unsavory things that have happened in the community this week, and of course the individuals involved know they have our united support. We've obviously already tweeted out about that as well. If you are engaging in that sort of behavior, fuck off, basically. And if you see it and you don't agree with it, please call it out. That's all we're going to say, and we're not going to draw attention to who's done it or what it's about, but we just want to, of course, put that on record that we do not stand for that, and of course the wider community don't stand for it either.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say that I echo that completely and stand with you in it? It's ridiculous that we have to do these things, but we do, and it's right that we call it out, and I do stand with you on it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. So we will get into the conversation, because of course we have to mention that first of all. But as I say, Kev, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. I suppose really we start with the obvious questions. Mm-hmm. What got you into this? What got you into Football Manager, and then what got you into the community and creation? And I want to pull a chair and we'll get to know you a bit better.
How long have you got?
Forever. Literally, I've got a brand new hard drive. We can record a 9-hour podcast. Rich's internet will probably dip out, but we can sub him in.
Yeah, we'll try and do it in 8. It'll be fine, I'm sure. Okay, so where do we start? So I'm sure we'll talk about certain aspects of this in more detail as we go, but basically, I have always had a disability. I was born with spina bifida, I'll talk a bit more about that later. But it meant that I have time on my hands because I'm not able to do full-time work. My health isn't reliable enough for it. So I find myself with at a loose end quite a lot. And about 4 years ago, just while trawling through YouTube to entertain myself, having played the Football Manager Championship Manager game since basically its inception 6 years ago, whatever it is now.
And the rest. I
don't know what it was, to be honest. I've lost track completely. But however long ago it was, I was there. And I found that Dr. Benji was putting his stuff on YouTube and allowing his saves to be seen by others. And I genuinely didn't know that was a thing. So 6 months afterwards, having binged a lot of his stuff, found a couple of other people in the community, not really widened the net too much, but I'd watched a lot of what he was doing. It was just a question of, this is the game that I love. This is a game that I use to entertain myself in a lot of free time that I have. Is there something else I can do with that now that I know that it's a possibility? So I just asked myself the question, do you want to give it a go? Not for being better than Ben or anything like that, just for my own sense of project and purpose, which I lack a little bit of because of some of the issues I've got. So that was it, really. I bought a very, very cheap microphone, had a fairly duff old laptop, and we just got going and started on the YouTubes, really. That was 3.5 years ago, and it's kind of snowballed a little bit. There's been some bumps in the road and some changes along the way, but I'm now on Twitch as well. The last year or so I've been on Twitch. But the whole point of it for me is this is a game that I love. It's a sport that I love. It's something that I used for my own sense of entertainment, but now I just kind of knew I could do something more with it and maybe entertain some other people along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to be fair, like, I think you've got a very similar journey to a lot of people. Like, I got into it again via seeing people like Ben on YouTube, people like Work the Space, watching parts of Prem, LokiDoki with his Journeyman. Again, there's a name that'll crop up as this conversation goes through, seeing Lelujo, and getting into it that way. And sort of, because I was originally, I did bits and bobs on the forum. So we're talking OG standards here, where you had to write your stories of your save. You had to have played 3 seasons before they'd even let you post about it. Otherwise they'd throw you out. And I'm like yourself, I didn't realize that, as stupid as it sounds, it was as easy to get into as it is.
Yeah, I think the only frustration for me is, so this was 4 years ago or whatever. In theory, if I'd have found it 8 years ago, I could have quite happily done it then at the beginning of coming in with the likes of Workspace and other people, because I had the love for the game and the mechanisms and the time to do it. I just didn't know it was a thing. So it's a little bit frustrating that I wasn't at that point. But when I found it, since then, it's been a very, very big part of who I am and what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, it's that's the thing for me, is I a very similar situation to yourself when it came to content creation. I'd never stopped to sit down and think about the logistics of how you would actually do it. And it was literally through Tony saying, right, you buy a webcam, you buy a microphone, and you buy some kind of lighting, and then you just download some really, really basic recording software. You press record and away you go. And that's it. It takes an hour to set up. If there's anybody who's watching this or listening to this in some capacity who's thinking, I might like this, is the kind of thing I would probably like to give a go at some point, literally that easy. Look at the state of me. I figured it out. I've done it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's the easiest thing in the world. And I'm just like you, kept kicking myself for not having started a bit sooner.
Yeah. You're doing it magnificently well, may I say, as well.
And that's why we're glad we booked you.
Flattery gets you absolutely everywhere.
Oh my God, so far.
I think you'll find I'm quite good at it. It'll be fine.
So, entering the FMT Hall of Fame is the United City FM.
5-minute episode, that's all we needed. Great.
But you say that, I mean, again, we'll mention it from the off. You mentioned the fact that you are you do have a disability. Again, we talk about representation an awful lot on the podcast, and again, it's that sort of highlighting the condition, the message, and how you get by day to day and how it affects you. I mean, do you want to talk about that right now, and then we can
sure.
have a bit of discussion on that, because I think that'd be great for people to learn about, particularly with regards to the condition itself, which I think potentially some people maybe don't quite understand fully.
No, that's cool. So, as I say, from birth, I've had what they call spina bifida, and very, very simple terms, where you have your spinal column. There is a section of it, and everybody's is different as to where it impacts and where it affects. There is a section that didn't form properly before birth, and that has various wide-ranging consequences to it as to how it might impact an individual. So, whereas one person might be completely wheelchair bound because of where it impacts their spine and their mobility, another person might not be seen to be mobily any worse off than maybe you guys are, but there are other hidden things, that other parts of their body doesn't quite work properly, or there's other issues, nerve ending issues and stuff. So the way that it works for me is that the part that's impacted is right in the small of my lower back. And at the time when I'm born, there's a bubble of sort of liquid that forms over the top of this area. And you can either keep it that way or they burst it. And there's then an indentation rather than a bubble on top of it. I have the indentation. And the issues that are affected by that particular section of my spinal column going away from it, it's all about nerves and nerve endings and where they go and what they do. And for me, I have mobility issues. Although I can walk, I can't do long distance without a wheelchair. I use a walking stick in the shape of a lightsaber because I'm a Star Wars nut. But I have one of those that I use to get around with. And I have various bits of my body that aren't working properly. So when I was born, my feet were left floppy. I had no control over the joint of the ankle joint. So they had to fuse it in place at an angle where I can now walk on it. But of course, I can't do that with my feet. So it's kind of stompy walk. And that means that I also have a gait on my walk in the upper body for balance purposes and stuff. So I walk kind of oddly, but think Emperor Penguin. That's how I look at it. That's why I've got one on my wrist as well. Because it's just a connection that I have to them. But that's how I perceive that other people will look at me and think how I walk. And the other issues I've got is that I can't feel my lower legs because the nerves that are going down there are affected by the point where my spine isn't formed properly. And a couple of other bits and pieces like that. So it's kind of wide ranging. As I say, everybody is different. There's not one story fits all, but that's how it works for me. It's had wide-ranging kind of consequences on what I can and can't do and what I feel about myself, and we'll talk about mental health and what that looks like within that as we go along as well. But there's lots of it in there. But that's spina bifida in a very, hopefully, chunk of a situation where you could potentially understand it. My words went from me a bit there, but you get what I'm trying to say. I hope you can understand what it looks like for that, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, that has absolutely enlightened me, really. It's one of those conditions I have heard a bit about personally, but not understood quite the extent of it. So to get that is fantastic. And of course, that impact upon yourself, you're saying there, would mean that obviously employment is difficult. So you were looking for projects, and this obviously works around you, presumably because you can sit around as much as you like, and you don't have to be up and mobile. And have you always had a creative spark? Has that been what's driven you to do this sort of stuff, or is it just because other people would do, for example, projects of, I don't know, they'd do DIY, or they'd learn to play a musical instrument or something, or they'd go for walks or write bits and pieces down? So was it just a case of, you know what, no, I'm going to do this. This is my thing, and this is what I'm going to be in for?
I've always been a people person. I've also always kind of been a bit of a performer in one way or another. In my time, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us have that. Yeah, a lot of us have that as a thing anyway, because otherwise, why would we do some of what we do here in that sense? But I sing,
Of course you do. We'll get onto that as well in a little bit.
Sure. I've done a lot of public speaking in my time, sometimes on disability stuff, sometimes on other bits and pieces. I was brought up with a dad who was kind of the same in various situations. He was by trade, he was a church minister. So there was always people and being up front and doing stuff within my childhood and other bits and pieces. So that's kind of where a lot of it stems from. But yeah, it is just that thing of I'm more confined than a lot of other people are. Not totally. I get out, I do things, but there is still a confinement, a little bit, a sense of I can't do everything that I'd like to do every day. It just doesn't work that way for me at times. So being in my own four walls is an okay place for me to be. It's something I've kind of got used to doing. And then, of course, the pandemic hit as well over the last couple of years. I kind of feel like I've been training for that for the last 20 years, if I'm totally honest. So we did all right with it mostly. But it is that thing of what can I do with my time that is not just me playing Football Manager for my own entertainment and just sort of letting days go by? What can I do that's going to be significant somehow to somebody other than myself, and all that kind of stuff, really. And this was a mechanism to try. There are other things that I've tried in the past. Some of them have worked for X amount of time and others haven't. And this is currently kind of where I find myself, really.
Yeah, and I think you've mentioned something there which strikes a massive chord with myself and Rich there. You're talking about being a people person. Rich, obviously we're coming from the background of being performers in terms of comedy. You went straight into Twitch, Rich. I dabbled a little bit in YouTube. Was Twitch, we've mentioned, of course, when Rich and I have spoken previously, Rich, you were straight into Twitch, no consideration at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Twitch seemed like immediately the right platform. No messing around, no second guessing, straight on there.
Yeah, and I dabbled a little bit in YouTube, but you started in YouTube, Kevin. We're going to get almost a little bit of an exclusive, I believe, but you're at a bit of a crossroads with YouTube and Twitch right now. Yeah. So do you want to give us a bit of your background with how YouTube's gone for you? And we mentioned a certain creator's name earlier, Doors, which we will naturally be talking about in this section. But you got into YouTube. Personally, I felt YouTube was a bit of a one-way discussion. You're recording a piece of camera, then you're going to wait a couple of days for comments coming through. Twitch, of course, very much instantaneous. How did you feel with regards to that process, and what difference do you spot now you're more on Twitch?
So, I mean, the first thing to say is 6 months before I went live on YouTube for the first time, I didn't know I could go live on YouTube for the first time, basically, as we've already said. So I didn't even know Twitch was a thing. I don't even know if it was a thing at that point. I don't know when Twitch came about, because I was not connected to that universe at all. I just watched YouTube videos for my own enjoyment. So it's kind of the natural thing of, this is what I see, this is what somebody is doing, I think I can kind of replicate it to my own level and do something with it. So YouTube became the thing. Within kind of fairly early days of getting involved in the community a little bit, you kind of get this vague sense that people are doing something else over there as well in some way, but it kind of didn't interest me. I think it felt like there was a bit of a safety net on YouTube to start out with, in terms of I could edit, I could stop and start again, I could cut things and, just make it what I wanted it to be and then put it out for people in a form that I was happy with. Whereas Twitch, you go live and anything happens and you can look like an absolute buffoon and you kind of have to roll with it at times. So there was a comfort in that. I've got every hand up as possible to have. It's absolutely fine. But yeah,
I feel very seen.
Yeah. I just didn't know that Twitch existed. So YouTube was the thing. But you are totally right that YouTube is like going to the cinema, and there is an element where Twitch is like going to the theatre. And there's an interaction and a connectivity. And for me, we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like and why there's a difference and what that difference is like for me. But if we go back a little bit and mention the name, Lord Loki of Doki, as I refer to him, VIP in everything that I ever do. So a year into YouTube, it wasn't going brilliantly well, but it was still my project and my purpose. So it was fulfilling that. But the numbers weren't great. I had 38 subscribers. I had about 1,000 hours of watch time. And I was just putting out videos because it was doing something for me more than anything else. And then on one particular day, and I can't remember which day it was specifically, but there was a day where in a 24-hour period, I got literally no views on my channel for that 24-hour period, even though I was constantly putting stuff up. So I put a tweet out, and it was not a tweet looking for sympathy or anything else. It was just a tweet looking to use the experience of the community. And my tweet simply says, how do you cope if you have a 0 view day? ... And lots of people piled in with lots of suggestions about what you could look at and what you could change and what you could be and what you should be and all sorts of other helpful and interesting things. LokiDoki's name came up in that conversation for a reason I can't remember, but it meant that he became aware of the conversation. And instead of jumping in and doing what everybody else was doing, of you should do this, you should try that, you should think about that, you should move that, he went away and made a video about my channel and put it up on his channel called The Curious Case of the TheUnitedCityFM. And it was a 20-minute look at my channel saying, this guy's all right. There's no bad things about what he's doing. Why is he not getting the views? What can we constructively criticize about it? What can we do? Oh, and by the way, go and show him some love. So on the Friday, I recorded a video to 38 people. And by the Monday, I was recording a video for 2,500 people. Because they came over and they chucked a like on my video and my stuff and watched a couple of the episodes, and yes, criticized it but constructively and said, you need to do this, you're missing out on that, you should think about that, etc. But it snowballed my channel. That Saturday evening when he released a video, I literally had no clue what was going on. My phone blew up with lots of notification things. I thought I'd been hacked, if I'm totally honest, because I had no understanding of what it was supposed to look like to be, to have this happen. So we get to Monday and I've now got 2,500 people. And then you've got to start kind of performing to that sort of, because there's now people watching and they're all going to have opinions and all that kind of stuff. And for the next year and a half, it went from utter euphoria, utter bewilderment, and then actually a bit of it was kind of, I don't really know how to make this work. I don't think my content was ready for what, the audience that I had. I don't think I match LokiDoki particularly in style necessarily. So whoever was coming from him won't necessarily gravitate to exactly what I do in that sense. They did it for him in a lot of ways. And yes, I have kept some of them and they're still there, a few of them saying I came over with that particular thing, etc. But not a lot of them did. And over the last couple of years, what I've actually seen is that my YouTube channel hasn't grown. It's diminished in its subscriber count. But more importantly than that, nobody's watching it, if I'm totally honest. I have 2,100 and something subscribers at the moment, and I'm getting anywhere between 25 and 50 people watching an episode that I put out, which is nothing considering I've got 2,100 something subscribers. And none of that's a bad thing. That is just what's happening. There's, that is factual. It's just the way it is. But I had to process it. I had to figure it out. And what I've found is a couple of things. And again, none of it is meant for me to put this out into the community for them all to say, no, it's wrong. It's not. This is factual, I think. What I perceive of my YouTube stuff is none of it is enough. Nothing of it is enough. It's not entertaining enough, educational enough, edgy enough, flashy enough, funny enough, etc. It's all fine. Everything about it is fine. But there's nothing that excels in it. And what I decided was when you put YouTube content out, the star of your YouTube video has to be your content, because people are coming to consume a thing and then walking away again. And it doesn't fit with who I am, because none of it is enough. At the same time, I now learn about Twitch and I understand what's happening over on the streaming side of things, and people are talking about it constantly. And I sit there and think I could be all right at that. I think there's something in that because it's about people. It's about connection with people and community and drawing people in. And actually what happens on Twitch is that your content becomes yourself whilst you're playing a game in our community. There are other vloggers and other people that do things differently, but within our community, that's how it works. So I got the opportunity to start doing Twitch. And over the last year of doing Twitch, I have found nothing of my YouTube is enough, but everything of me is right for Twitch. So why am I doing YouTube? I'm doing YouTube in theory because you're supposed to do YouTube to grow and to help, cross-pollinate your platforms and other things. But my YouTube isn't being watched. So it can't really be doing that as successfully as other people's do. And I'm not here to make a full-time job. I'm here for project and for purpose in my own existence and fulfilling something in me. And if it happens to do something for somebody else, then that's absolutely fine. But it has to go down to that. So I'm going to stop doing YouTube. Basically, I don't enjoy it in the same way. I'm not a great editor and none of it is quite enough. So currently I've got just had 2 saves on my YouTube channel. One of them's just finished, a Conquer the Curse at Benfica, which is a grand title, but a good fun one. And I've still got my British Isles Journeyman series. Once that one finishes, I will not replace it and I will not be making YouTube specific content anymore. I will focus myself on Twitch because it's where I'm supposed to be and I'm just better at it. I'm sure you've got other thoughts and questions we can go into that, but I will stop at that point and let you come and talk in your own podcast.
all I got from that was nail, hammer, head. That's 100% where I am. Like I have a YouTube channel. I'm the same as yourself, Kev. I don't think my YouTube stuff is good enough, and I don't have the time to make my YouTube stuff good enough. But I know on Twitch, I am so much better. And you're right. It's people spend 3 hours, 4 hours in your stream with you and your community that you cultivate. Your community say, it doesn't matter what save you've got. It doesn't matter how well you're doing. We're here for you and the conversations that we have with yourself and with other members of your community that you build. And your community are a wonderful, wonderful bunch of people.
And isn't that
loads, and I have a great time in there.
Isn't that just in that statement alone the most ridiculously humbling thing, that they are all happy to come in, spend 3 hours of their time just because it's in your company doing your thing at your pace because you're there to do it? Isn't that ridiculous in its way, but incredible that, that becomes
fantastic.
It is, absolutely. And it's a fulfillment, again, of this thing of what is my purpose within my project. And my purpose is to keep me amused, keep me going, give me something to focus and think about, but also pay that forward somehow and give something to somebody else to enlighten and enrich something of who they are, because that is what we're supposed to do as humans, basically. It's just we are not designed to sit in our own bubble, I don't think.
What an incredibly eloquent way of putting it. It's,
well, good, because I wouldn't be able to repeat it again in any other situation, I'm sure. So that worked. Great.
Well, you can see that clip on YouTube.
You what?
It's not on Kev's channel anymore. It's on the podcast. So,
no, but I completely agree with. I completely agree with you. It's having, and again, I'm sat here from a different perspective to the two of you, because you've both gone from YouTube content to Twitch content. I obviously went straight in on Twitch. For me, it was, and again, for me, I think I looked at it from a point of view of I've consumed enough Football Manager content on YouTube. I've watched people like LokiDoki, people like Ben, people putting out great content. And I looked at that and said, is that the kind of content that I could replicate in terms of quality? Not necessarily trying to replicate what people like Ben or LokiDoki or anybody who's been creating Football Manager content on YouTube for a long time. Could I replicate something to that standard? It's highly unlikely. But could I sit and chat to people for 2-3 hours while I'm playing a game and do something in that respect? Absolutely, I can. So for me, it was just a case of this is what I'll go straight in and do. I think both of you to have the self-awareness to be able to contrast and compare both things and go, actually, I'm far better suited to one of these is a testament to the two of you in that respect, for sure. It can't be an easy thing to have a creative endeavor that you don't feel satisfied with. And then in the same context as well, when you look at if you start thinking about people's YouTube content that you enjoy, as Tony and I have discussed before, in terms of content that we produce, if you actually look at the Football Manager gameplay that we produce, we're not winners in terms of the game. If you watch Tony, if you watch myself, you're not going to learn how to play the game. You're not going to get a tactical masterclass. You're probably going to get two people who are having a decent time playing the game, and you can probably laugh at how badly they're doing in certain situations.
I can fit into that. Trust me.
There you go. You're in great company. Great company. So if for me, I when I was kind of weighing up the options, I thought I'm just not good enough at the game. I'm not somebody that somebody's going to want to watch this content because like as you say on YouTube, the content is the star. What you're doing is the star. The gameplay is the star. I can't produce good enough gameplay to keep people entertained, but isn't it going to be funny if I'm sat there for 2.5 hours and then just, lose a playoff semi-final because my goalkeeper scored an own goal in the 90th minute? That's going to be funny. People can get involved with that and then sit there and watch me be grumpy about it for half an hour afterwards. Again, that's what people want. And that's what I can give you. That's what I can give you.
Absolutely. I think for me, the really important aspect of all of that is to figure out why you're doing it, what the point of you doing your content creation is. I see so many people get caught up in this mental health bubble of the numbers aren't very good and therefore I'm not very good, etc., etc. And it's such a bad place to get to because they start by going, I've got an hour free each week. I might as well put my save up on YouTube. And within 6 months, I need to make this a career because somebody else has made it a career or whatever the case may be. And it's just really, really unfortunate if you get caught up in that. Trust me, I've been there. When my numbers started dropping off from LokiDoki, there was a year where I went and questioned every aspect of what was going on. Why wasn't I retaining people? All sorts of other bits and pieces. Why is my content not good enough? Should I put more evergreen stuff out, individual stuff, tutorial stuff, which I tried here and there and not a lot worked. There is a point where I could have just gone, well, stuff it, it's not working, I give up. But I reminded myself why I was there. And the simple process of putting something out into the world every day was my project and my purpose for myself. And nothing else mattered. And it's so important that you keep hold of why you wanted to do this, what the point of it was, and what it's doing for you, not how you can compare in your own mind to everybody else. Really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you talk and hit the nail on the head, that mental health bubble, that pressure that people feel to have little things like a schedule. Like, I've got to have a video every single day. I've got to have a stream at this time. And if I say it's 9 o'clock, it has to be 9 o'clock. And it has to be because it's on my Twitch schedule that I have to be this, and this. And I've got to have 5 streams a week. Otherwise, no one's going to watch. And you go, but life gets in the way. Like, it's not your job. People talk about the grind. What? The grind of playing a video game and recording it and pressing a YouTube button. Like, that's, if you're worrying that this is a grind right now, then you need to take a step back from it because that's not healthy. That's not healthy. Like, this is not your main source of income. That your work is the grind that you have to get through the day to pay your bills, to support your family, to pay for your mortgage, your rent, to eat, to fuel your car. That's the grind. This is the fun stuff. Like, and yeah, we'd all love to play to, it's like comedy, we'd all love to play to 1,000 people. But some nights you've got to accept it's 2 people and a dog on a new material night trying new things out. And you know what? If it works there, it works in front of 1,000 people. I'll tell you that for now.
That dog thinks I'm hilarious, by the way. I know if he's in, I'm having a good gig. He loves my stuff.
My dog couldn't care less.
but you know, I get it though. I totally get it. Like, everybody wants to see the numbers, and everyone gets told from the start, like, turn your numbers off, don't look at it. But it's only natural, isn't it, to see how successful is it, or how you've got the two thoughts: either how successful is it, or how bad is it doing, and that depends upon what your psyche is as a person, anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I think it drives bad behaviors. YouTube, I think, can drive very bad behaviors because you naturally sit and hit refresh and wait for comments and wait for likes, and we've all done it. We've all done it. And YouTube, again, we've all sat there. Twitch. So we've all sat there going live, and one day you'll have 10 people in the chat before on your starting screen. You go, oh, cool, there's people already waiting. And then you have a wonderful stream, you get loads of raids, and you have a great time, and your numbers look fantastic. Next day you go on, and there's 3 people in the starting screen, or there's no people in the starting screen, and you go, what have I done wrong? Nothing. You're up against Champions League football. Like, you're up against Friday night. You're up against someone's birthday. You're up against world events, life. The pandemic opened wonderful opportunities for us all to do this stuff and take that opportunity to start putting content out, to start making stuff on stream, podcasts. But then when restrictions started easing, people were going out more. So numbers were going to naturally drop. And here we are now. And if you're still in it, and you're still enjoying it, for me, and I think for yourself, you'd probably agree, Kev, that's what it's about, right? Retain the people that are core, and your community are there for you.
Yeah. If I have decided in my own head, and I have, that I do not need this to be a full-time job with a full-time wage supporting my family, then I have a completely different perspective on where I'm at. And to be honest, if I look in on the FM community at the moment, and I look at someone like Zealand, I don't know if I'd be very good streaming to Zealand's numbers. I could do a couple of hundred people, and I'm not there yet, and I'm going to get there one day, just because the community will grow and it will develop after the year that we've had. But for someone like Zealand is very much an entertainer. I want to be a community hub. And I can't be a community hub to 15 people as the chat just goes like that all the time that you're streaming. So it doesn't worry me about how many people I can attain. What's important to me as of this Saturday evening is that on Monday I will hit go live, and out of whoever my regulars are will be there, and a few new people will be there, and that's who I'm doing it for those 2 hours, to lighten them, to enlighten them, to enrich them, to give them something to think about, to have some fun, but also because of my project and my purpose, it's so vital. So yeah, I'm delighted to have got through the pandemic in terms of being as a content creator and still be here. I've seen lots of people come and go during that period. I think now I can move forward and understand a little bit more about who I am a little bit more as a content creator, and I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, it's just great to hear how people have adapted. Like, Rich, have you had that struggle at all? Have you had the fear, I suppose you could say, the fear, or the Twitch anxiety or YouTube anxiety? As performers, we've had it with gigs before. I know I've definitely had it with gigs before. Not doing that gig tonight, can't face it. Like, I mean, have you ever felt like that, Rich? Going, I have to stream, but not feeling it.
Oh no, I'm the opposite side of the coin. I think if you go back and if you look at my Twitter, there's a good half dozen, probably more tweets on there over the last 6 months or so where I've been like, sorry lads, not happening tonight, not feeling it, not feeling too good. I think last time I did it, I was like, right, here's a list of things you can go and do instead. Like, here's some creators that I like. I was like, go watch Tony, go watch some of the people in the community who are on. These are a list of people that are on live now. Here's some artists I like on Spotify. Just go and do something else instead, because you've got options. I would never force myself to sit down and stream if I wasn't feeling it, because I don't think people wouldn't want to watch it. You can tell if somebody's not feeling it. You can tell. We've had conversations about this previously. Tony, you brought it up at the scouting centre when you were talking to Diz apparently the other host of this podcast.
Yeah, I was so looking forward to meeting up with Diz, but
I know. Sorry,
He's busy tonight, I'm afraid.
Yeah, he had a lot on. He's just putting some kids to bed. That's why he couldn't make it tonight.
Fair enough.
You've mentioned it when you were chatting to Diz. We've talked about it openly on here before. We've had times where we're like, right, we would need to, you had it with Matt, where you go, right, we need to re-record that episode because one of us wasn't feeling right. It's happened with me and Tony. We've re-recorded episodes. And that's fine. But in terms of streaming, if I was feeling like that, I'm self-aware enough now. Maybe I wouldn't have been 2 or 3 years ago before I started streaming, but I'm self-aware enough now to be able to say, this isn't a good night to be doing this. I need to take a break. I need to be doing literally anything else. So for me, I've not found myself in that situation yet. And like I say, touch wood, self-aware enough to try and avoid it because, as I've talked about quite openly before, my mental health is interesting and has definitely been in the past. Mentally interesting, I think, is a way that somebody describes themselves that I know and I love. I absolutely adore that phrase. Mentally interesting. So, I'm not afraid to admit it. But as I say, where I am as a person at the moment, self-aware enough to know that some nights it wouldn't be a good idea to sit and stream because nobody's going to have a good time. I'm not going to have a good time. People in the chat are not going to have a good time. I'm not for me. Touch wood, not there yet.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? And you mentioned there that self-awareness, like you mentioned there with self-awareness that YouTube's not working. Like for me, I'm the same. Like I look at creators in YouTube that I look at and go, I can't do that style. It wouldn't work for me. Like I look at you say guys like Zealand, like Fox in the Box was making wonderful content. RDF Tactics, Stinger, Shrew, just crushing it. Like Zealand, like really very now. And I'm a 42-year-old man trying to make YouTube videos that 20-year-olds are making. It ain't going to happen. Like, it's going to be a case of, oh, here's my discussion with what happens in Indonesia. And you're going to like it for half an hour. And it's just that thing, isn't it? It's, if you can look at it and go, they're doing their thing and they're brilliant at it. Let's celebrate that. Let's go over here and do this thing that I'm better at and get more out of, and people will enjoy more. Like you made an interesting point, though, Kev, when you said that you didn't feel as though there was much of a crossover between yourself and what you presumed LokiDoki's crowd would be like. I probably disagree. I think that yourself and Loki would be in and around the same sort of community. I think you're both very similar personalities. I think that you've got a really loyal fan base. I think people warm to you in the same way they warm to Loki. They reach out when Loki has concerns or has fundraisers. His community are so loyal and they're straight away supporting him, as proven by coming in and when watching your content with the early call to arms, which I guess then became a precursor to when the Lujo did the breakdown of people's YouTube channels with Ben as well, which again is fantastic. If you've not seen these, by the way, on YouTube, go and watch these, and of course we'll link the LokiDoki video in the description as well. But I think that the sense of community and your loyalty with your community is something that we're going to touch upon now. Like I say all the time in my stream, we mentioned this just before we started going live, which is why we'll talk about it now. I mentioned in my stream a lot that our chat are incredibly generous. Like thankfully you can get subscriptions as part of Amazon Prime, so it doesn't cost people money. But some people are incredibly generous with their money to support the work that we all do. And I make a point every single stream and on the podcast that whatever we make gets reinvested back, so people are seeing something for their investment. I don't want to be sat there hoarding money away, going, "Oh, I wonder where all that money went. Oh, Tony's paid his gas bill." Like, no, it's not that, right? Tony is going to buy new cameras, new microphones, lighting. We bought, obviously, we managed to get up to the point where we're buying a new rig, and that is that investment to go, look, this is where all this is going. You mentioned yourself before you started, you've just gone through your Twitch anniversary, we call them. Rich has just gone through his as well. But you're at the point now where you're in that similar phase where you're wanting to give back. You mentioned paying it forward earlier on. So do you want to talk a bit more about where you are with that and your wonderful community?
Yeah, there's typically with me, there's quite a lot to say.
Go for it.
So what I would preface it all with is this comes from a person that through my entire adult life has not been able to financially support myself through doing what society deems is usual to do, of going to work, getting your job, bringing in the money, etc., finding security over your head. My wife works, I don't, etc. So that's the preface of everything that's now happening in and around Twitch. What I would say is my Twitch community over the last year have demonstrated levels of generosity, both in just their time, in their care, their support, but also in their finances here and there as well, to, as I often coin the phrase, blow my tiny little mind. And they do that quite a lot. I think I've been a little bit slow about expressing to them how what they feed in through that financial mechanism actually does have an impact on the channel and the stream and what we do as a community. I'm intending to be much more clear about that moving on through some mechanisms that I've got coming up in the next few days. But the things that we have done to improve the quality of what goes on in my stream will have been benefited by these people. We have updated equipment. I have recently just launched a new look to the channel, a custom skin over the top of my stream that is the first custom built one for my channel that I've had, and it's only possible because of the community that's there. And for somebody that has never been able to provide financially for anybody else, let alone myself, to even get a glimpse of people thinking that my content and the quality of community that they're part of is worth something of themselves like that, I don't know if I can express exactly what that means to me particularly. There's lots of little trigger points, as you've already said, about people being there before you actually say a word on your stream. When your starting stream is on and they come in and they say hi to each other and they say, this is going to be a good afternoon, blah, 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 whatever. That's ridiculously humbling. The fact that then some of them sit there for 2 hours every weekday afternoon, 3 till 5 p.m. UK time on Twitch. Sorry,
link below in the description.
But the fact that they come in and spend 2 hours with me pretty much every afternoon because of the community, because of the fact that we are growing together and becoming something connected to each other is incredibly humbling. The fact on top of that, that they are able to go and do what I've never been able to do, which is go and financially support themselves through work and mechanisms and gain security for themselves and their family, and then pass it forward to somebody like myself who is now offering a service, sort of, but I don't really see it that way, because the whole reason I'm doing it, as I've always said, is project and purpose, and that's got nothing to do with that. But the fact that they're there able to do that for me is ridiculously humbling. And I don't know how else to express it other than that. So we will be much more connected to that as we move forward in terms of what that looks like. We will now be beginning to have sub-targets for various aspects of improving who we are as a community, etc. And I've been slow to that. But, you know, learning a Twitch skill for a year is still not really enough to be fantastic at it in the big scheme of things. Give me another 3 and I won't look the same as I currently look now in terms of just my ability to stream. So I think we're doing okay, but there's always room for an improvement or two.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head there in a lot of ways. I think it's just the generosity of the community, just be it your own personal community built around your stream, be it the wider Football Manager community in general, just in terms of the time they're willing to invest in you, in terms of, as Tony said, subscriptions, as donations, any kind of support, be it financial, be it just being there in somebody's chat. It's such a great community. I mean, Tony and I have both in the last 12 months, we've both done streams for charity, raising money for different causes. I don't think I've ever actually mentioned this before on pod or on stream or anywhere. When I did the charity stream at the start of the year for St Richard's Hospice to raise money for the hospice that looked after my old man, kind of in the final months of his life. We managed to raise over £500, like a staggering amount of money for that cause, which was incredible. Amazing. But this is the kicker. I was advertising it on my socials. So I was putting it on Twitter. We talked about it before. We put it on Discords. I put it out there on things like Facebook as well. When I went back and looked at the donations during the live stream, not a single person donated to that I've had any kind of contact with in real life. Not a single person I actually physically know was involved in any of the donations that raised that money that we could donate to St Richard's Hospice afterwards. Every single penny of that came from members of the FM community, be it through the pod at the time, which I wasn't a part of, through streaming, through the wider FM community. It's just, what an incredible thing. Just that generosity, right? That people are in a position to be able to do things like support you in that kind of way is quite incredible. And I've said this, but I don't think there are many other communities like this where you would have just that instant level of support and help in that context. It's quite a thing. It really is.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we raised probably about the same when we were doing the 12-hour weightlifting challenge that we did to raise money for the premature baby unit that helped us with our youngest when he was born. And it's just that it is mind-blowing to, as you say, you've got people who you've never met and may never meet because they might be in another part of the world. For all intents and purposes, you may never meet these people, but they are happy to support what you're doing, and they see the message that you're trying to support. And we say in the Discord as well, like we've had a couple of people say, I'm doing this for charity. Like, would you mind, like, am I okay to post it? And I'm like, post it away. We'll retweet that. Of course we will. Like, we're all about, we've had people run marathons. We've had people do 3 peaks. We've had people do 10Ks or Ironmans or whatever. So yeah, if anyone's doing stuff like that, then we absolutely will help share that, because as you say, it's about paying it forward. We are a community. We're all in it together, and if you can afford to support someone in that way, then yeah, absolutely do it. And if not, if you can just spread the message a little further, then that helps as well. And I think that's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And to feel part of something, especially, in the last 2 and a bit years where we've been in pandemic times, I think it's been amazing for people to be able to connect in a way that restrictions didn't allow us to connect. And we found friendships and connections that we maybe wouldn't have seen before. And I think that it's really is quite beautiful. Like we mentioned a lot about how we're incredibly proud of the community that we've built, and we genuinely mean it. And as I said, you're the same as ourselves, Kev. Like, you're very, very vocal about the people who come to your stream. I sit in your chat, and they're lovely. They're so lovely. Like,
I mean, they're a bunch of meanies to me at times, but that's part and parcel of being a streamer. But they are absolutely lovely. Just don't tell them that I said so.
Oh, that's how you know you've made it as a streamer. If you're being bullied by your mods in your chat, it means they genuinely like you. That's how it works.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, this whole thing of drawing community together individually, we've all done that in our own separate streams. You guys have done this collectively as a podcast as well within the Football Manager Therapy kind of brand, etc. And that's all incredible. But the football community, the Football Manager community is doing that as a bigger thing these days as well. I remember, 3.5 years ago when I started, there was not the the network games, the drafting competitions, the collaborations between different people at different levels doing different things. There just wasn't any of it. We all had our own little bubble that we were all doing our own little thing in and trying to be a Football Manager content creator. But it's incredible to see where the landscape has gone. And I mean, the likes of Dr. Benji are incredibly important to that, in terms of putting on some of the events and drawing people in whatever way they've been able to do so. And we've seen the likes of, Wasted Possession, FM Playoffs, Super League, lots of others, Road to Legends, there's so many out there that have
Creators Championships that we're both former champions of.
Absolutely, that we were one of the originators of after the showdown started. We did a couple on YouTube. I won the first one. Somebody else took my title. We don't talk about it, but in the second one, but it's okay. But the Football Manager community is just incredible that it has come together over the last couple of years out of necessity because of the pandemic, because everybody was confined. And we create community, and it's always going to have issues because people are people. We spoke at the very beginning of this particular podcast about issues that are happening in the community that should not be happening in our community, but they still do, and they still will, because people are people, unfortunately, and there's always going to be an element of it in one way or another. But there is so much good out there. There is so much good out there. And as a community, it's such a vastly different place than I started in 3.5 years ago, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, I think you're right. And to see it evolve is wonderful. And you mentioned PvP. I wasn't going to bring it up. Certainly not the tournament that we are both former champions of.
It was you, was it? Oh, okay.
It was,
no,
yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. Spoiler alert, chat. I won something once. I've also won the Super League as well, which again I think you're in as well.
Interesting.
We played together a few times, but I love drafting against yourself, and we always have a great time. There's that mutual respect and camaraderie, which I think is great when you're in a call with someone who you get on with. Like it just creates a great match, and it's entertainment. Now, talking about entertainment, have you managed to finally sleep at night after the United City FM versus FM Girl absolute drama-a-thon? I'm sorry for bringing it up.
You can go off people, this is a therapy session, is it not?
It's time. It's time to open up. Yeah,
it's about time, isn't it? Really. So, for anybody that doesn't know, I was in a group that FM Girl was in as well, and we were trying both to get out of the group. And in the very last game of the group, I wasn't playing her, but the two results mattered, and I needed to win. And I needed her not to for me to get out of the group. And I won. And then in the last dying seconds of her game, somehow her team showed up and turned around a defeat into a win and took the spot away from me on goal difference, I think it was, and went through. And no, I will never be over it. But it's incredible, isn't it, that those story moments happen just by a bunch of people getting together and playing a random game on the internet for other people to watch. And it's amazing. And I love Alice. She's brilliant. I will absolutely openly say, along with a lot of other people doing unique stuff, the fact that she came into the community doing something nobody else was doing in her comic book, it's incredible Football Manager content. It's incredible. It's right up there with anything anybody else is doing in this space because it is so unique and interesting and different and creative. But she's still a pain in PvP. What can I tell you? But it's brilliant. Love it. Brilliant. I love drafting. And this is what we're talking about. The fact that the community's got together and there's so many groups of people getting involved in voice chats and playing the game and sometimes taking it seriously and wanting desperately to win, but most times just having a laugh and fun and getting to be able to talk to somebody else and widen their connections around the community and have a bit of fun with a game that we all love. You can't ask for much more than that, really. I mean, yes, it's a mode in game that they should be working on a bit and potentially could do quite a lot to improve it. But for what it is, it's done a lot of good in this community. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my part in that. Yes, I've won some stuff. Yes, I've gone out in really awful circumstances, but none of that matters. What matters is that you get together and you meet like-minded people and you do something together and enrich and improve each other by doing it, basically.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Can't echo those sentiments more. Just the amount of just wonderful people that I've gotten to meet and spend time with because of competitions like the playoffs have been fantastic. I've met some of my favorite people, or my now favorite people in the community through those. It's been absolutely fantastic, and again, it just speaks to the standard and the quality of this community that people, especially even since the pandemic, post pandemic, there are still people like Alice, for example, coming in and just doing something wonderful like she does. The comic is fantastic, and like I say, it's not just the fact that it's unique. It's also just really good. Just clear the table of everything else. It's just really good content, and just the fact that she's come in, welcomed with open arms. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. As I've said before, not many of the communities I can think of that would be so welcoming and encouraging for new people to come in. When essentially all we are, we're just a bunch of nerds, just getting excited about spreadsheets. That's all it really is.
Absolutely, and just as a personal thing for myself to add into this, that we've kind of touched on a little bit, but it's kind of imperative for me to make it as clear as I can. When you look at the fact that someone like Alice is at the forefront of a particular style of content, you look at the fact that RDF is at the forefront of a particular style of content. You look at the fact that within the interview sphere, with all the greatest love and respect to you guys and anybody else doing it, somebody like Mr. Diz is at the forefront of doing this style of content. And we're talking about minority groups for different reasons, in different ways, being at the forefront of what this community is doing. Even if there aren't as many people coming up behind them as we'd love there to be at the moment, they will do, because they'll see people of themselves in there that they can relate to. One of the biggest issues I've got as a content creator, and I've always struggled to figure this one out, is if you look at me, I am middle-aged, white bloke, beard and glasses, playing Football Manager. That's what's easily seen of me. But I'm a minority. I'm part of a minority group in disability terms, in the fact that there are lots of people using this game out there as a disabled person to try and get through their day and give them something to think about and other things, and haven't necessarily thought, well, they could be part of this too in some way. And there will be loads of people that will struggle to do it for lots of different reasons. But trust me, there are going to be loads of middle-aged white blokes with beards and glasses that are going to struggle to do this anyway, because that's just part of the nature of doing this particular thing. But I need to find a way to stand up metaphorically and say, here I am, this is what I've got, this is the inroads that I'm making of myself, alongside other people doing it for different groups, but collectively we are just better together. And it's these moments to come and express some of that with you guys that's important to me, because I can say that to my stream on a weekday afternoon, but they kind of already know it, and they're already invested in it because they've been with me long enough to know who I am and what I have and how that works for me in a lot of ways. But it's so important that we grow. We're in 2022 and bad things are still happening and people are still feeling marginalized, and it should not be the case, and it is. So if anybody's got any bright ideas out there as to how I can make myself more visible in that, I am all ears. If anybody is struggling with the same sort of stuff, come and talk to me. I've got no answers, but we can gather around some identity of that sort of stuff. But look at our community. Look at our community. We've got lots of middle-aged white blokes with beards and glasses, but we've also got Diz and RDF and FM Girl and Holly Plays and countless other people trailing a path, and it's blooming marvelous. It's about as much as I can put it, but I want to be part of that. And this is my stepping out moment to kind of say, people know that of me a bit, but what can I actually do with it? What can I be with it? And it's important to try and make those inroads somehow. That's about as much as I can say, because I don't have any answers necessarily, but I just want to be involved in the conversation, because I feel like the last year has made lots of strides forwards, as much as it's possible for us to do in some of these areas. And my minority aren't as vocally seen within some of that. So hi everyone.
Yeah, you know what, like, again, we joked about just letting you talk, but these are the messages where we just need to just shut up and listen, And you're right. You're 100% right. Like, how do you become visible? Like, how do you promote, your situation? I mean, we mentioned about fundraising. We should really have said at the time, a lot of money was raised for special effect this year through Game Blast, which was an amazing event to be part of. 3 days worth of Football Manager back-to-back streaming. We raised something like £7,000 or £8,000 or something, which again is, and if you've not seen Special Effect the charity and you're unaware as to what they do, they are the best people in the world. They do so much wonderful work getting people with physical and mental disabilities into video games, working with tools, with interactions to get them access to this level of entertainment and just enjoyment that we all take for granted. Again, we'll pop that link in the description. We need to do more work with Special Effect. We've said that before, and again, go and check them out. They are wonderful people and so supportive of everything anybody does.
That came round at a point where I wasn't confident enough in my streaming ability to be part of it because I was still fairly new. If it comes round again, trust me, I'm in.
You'll be in it. You'll be in it.
Basically,
Absolutely.
I'm in. But I watched some of it. I didn't know who they were until I watched some of it. The stuff that was done over that weekend. Can I just, at this moment, randomly shout out Scooter? Scooter was just ridiculously good on that occasion. His diving in snow antics and other bits and pieces still has the impact on me. I cannot believe what that guy put himself through for that particular stream. But it is moments like that, again, good people doing great things for a very good cause is what we should be more focused on as much as we can as a community. And that is incredible. And yes, if it comes around again, count me in.
Yeah, it was fantastic to be part of it, and I was very, very fortunate. Rich, you did some of Game Blast as well, didn't you? I was very, very fortunate to do the closing ceremony, the closing couple of hours, which again we were all joking, going, "It's terrible. This thing's going to end with Tony getting sacked, and we're all going to have to sit and wait." But I was sat, and we were having a lovely time. And shout out to the Streamer Showdown, who at the end of every Streamer Showdown they will raid someone, and there's couple of thousand people who are watching the Streamer Showdown. The raid came over to us while we were streaming because of the fact that it was Game Blast, because of the fact it was Special Effect, and I can't thank them enough for helping put more eyes onto that event. So shout out to the Streamer Showdown for that, and that helped us tip way over the expectations for fundraising. Rich, how did you find it yourself? Because again, we had little sub goals and stuff throughout, and did you have fun? Was it something that you did?
I adored it. I absolutely adored it, and I would love to be a part of it again. It was, just again coming back and getting to do something to raise money for just an absolutely exceptional cause. The work that Special Effect do can't be hyped enough. They do such wonderful things. To be given the opportunity to be part of it was wonderful. And I had a brilliant time. I had an absolutely brilliant time doing it. I ate a lot of hot sauce, and so much hot sauce. And we gave the World Strike partnership of I think it was Tony Benson and Jameson Hedges, because that's what somebody asked for. So right, Benson and Hedges up front, and that was where it was just wonderful.
You've just reminded me actually, because we all did sort of sub targets or donation targets. So we had things like you could donate, say like a £5, and you could pick the next tactic for the next match, or a tenner you could select the team. I know, similar to yourself, Kev, with your channel points and your chat, love to make you play goalkeepers outfield. The best one we had on ours towards the end, I put something silly, I think it was like £300 or something. I was like, there's no way we're gonna get this. I had like 250 quid in my head as if we can get that during our stream, that'll be brilliant. I said, if we hit 300 quid, I'll change the game language. Okay. And because we were managing in Norway, right, at the time with the odds Ball Club save, I was like, if we hit 300 quid, I'll change the game language to Norwegian and we'll try and battle through. And of course we hit £300 because that's entertainment, right? So we changed to Norwegian. We go through a job interview in Norwegian and we get a job on stream. No idea how. We've passed the job interview, but just little things like that. And it was just, everyone's bought into it, which was just so much fun. So much fun. And I guess we need to now talk then about Norway and about Scandinavia and the Penguins. We say we're not winners. We're not winners, Rich and I. And Rosenborg, how many years?
Well, okay. So technically,
Great start.
It was 4 seasons with Viking. And after 2, I was in the boardroom 4 times, I think it was. And on the 4th, offered to resign because I didn't know how I was going to turn it around. And for unknown reasons, other than the fact that I've got an awful lot of dirt on the board at Viking, they refused my resignation. And we turned it around enough to get European qualification 2 seasons later. So technically, my first 4 years in Norway with Viking, struggling and having a lot of fun. The second 4 years, Bodo Glimt stopped my Rosenborg team from winning the title and were a bunch of meanies. And in the 4th season with them, finally, after 8 in Norway, I won it. This is part of my Nordic Glory Hunter series over on Twitch that we do every weekday afternoon. And it's trying to win the top flight leagues of Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Iceland. And it took me 8 seasons to win the Norwegian one. You can imagine how much my chat were enjoying that fact. Got my own back, though. We won the Danish one in 1. Because I found myself at Copenhagen. And that was very helpful. And now we're in Malmo in Sweden, giving that a go. But it's been fun. But that Norwegian expedition was challenging, to say the least, but so much fun. It will probably be one of those things in 4 years that we still talk about that 4-year period at Viking specifically, and how I had so much dirt on the board that they refused my resignation, even though they should have. But I just don't get sacked, Tony. What can I tell you? I just don't get sacked. I walk away when I choose to, because I do my research on people before I come into a club.
There's
I don't know what to say.
you did nothing because he's got you. I think.
Go on.
I was going to say, Kev, I think that's just a testament to your ability at the game. Because I think if Tony or I were to walk into a boardroom and even, just the word resignation came up, I think they would just like lean over the desk and shake our hand instantly.
If I'd have typed the word "ah," then it just went, "Yep, that'll do."
Bye bye.
I mean, we've seen people accidentally resign, haven't we? So that's one thing in the community. But what I would say is there is a clip going around about how you can not resign or not get the sack by the board on from my stuff in my boardroom meetings with Vikings board. It was quite impressive. I don't quite know what happened myself. I was as surprised as anybody else, but it was extraordinarily good content.
I've got I had the clip going round because myself and Omega Luke were almost challenging each other to get sacked. We're not challenging each other, but it seemed we were getting sacked a lot at the start of the game cycle. And there's a clip of me on stream and someone comes in for the first time. They're like, "Oh, I'm brand new to the game." And the timing is exquisite. I'm on stream going, "I've been playing this game for 30 years. Press spacebar. Oh, just been sacked. Brilliant." That's the clip.
Fantastic. That's genius.
Can't make this up. That'll do.
No.
Stick that out on YouTube. And I popped into Sweet Left Foot stream the next day or something, and he was like, "Oh, Tony said, hey, have you all seen Tony getting sacked on this clip? Right, I'll just load it up now." And I'm like, "Oh, this is what it's about." Beautiful.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's really incredible. And again, it's just dots on a screen. But look what it does, and look what it creates. It's incredible. Just because you did, I'll give a shout out to Sweet Left Foot, Second Yellow Card, all that crew that happened to stream in and around my sort of time on a weekday afternoon. They are so encouraging, so brilliantly supportive as higher up members of our community, just supporting other people. I've been into my stream so many times. I'm so appreciative of those guys specifically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great bunch of lads. I miss, but my original kind of, I don't like to say schedule because it wasn't really a schedule, but more often than not when I was streaming, it used to be Tuesday mornings, Tuesday afternoons. And, now, unfortunately, I don't get the opportunity to do that. And I miss those morning/early afternoon streams more than anything else, I think. Just always great fun. Always great fun. And like you say, kind of the crew that are on streaming around those kind of times of day, again, massively supportive. Just great bunch of lads.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can't be raging at like 11 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't work. Like, you've got to have a vibe. I have seen a couple of streams that have been quite similar to that.
I was going to say, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think that, again, that's the thing. Like, we've all got a very similar vibe. We're all pretty chilled out. Like, I mean, even my streams are like 9 o'clock in the evening, and even then, I'm sometimes just with a coffee, just like, it'll be fine. We'll get here. Like, it's not going to be too wild or whatever. But you're right. I think for a smaller creator like ourselves, like, to see the bigger creators taking time investing in us and sort of offering that support is greatly appreciated, of course. And and as you said, that's how we grow. That's how we make everyone better.
It is.
Yeah. I think that feels like a nice sort of spot to end, really. I think we've had a good conversation. I don't really think there's much left to uncover just yet. I mean, of course, we can get you back on again. Absolutely, Will. It's been absolute pleasure. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the thing we have to do really is we need to get you to plug yourself. Okay, so you've got to shout out your socials, your Twitch, your YouTube that you're about to burn.
Indeed.
Where can we find you and when?
Watch out for the YouTubes, because I don't quite know whether we'll be putting stream content on there in some form or not. I'm not sure, but basically it's really simple. I am on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, all at the United City FM. And that's what I have going, really. I'm not on TikTok at the moment. I don't know whether I ever will be. It feels like a thing that I don't totally understand, if I'm honest. Instagram, nobody wants to see this. It's fine. So yeah, those three, all at the United City FM.
Fantastic. Lovely. Well, we'll make sure people go and follow you and check you out. Rich, speaking of people who we can get to follow and check out, where can we find you?
You can find me at Rich Owens FM on Twitter, posting many opinions, mostly nice. And you can also find me at twitch.tv/Rich Owens FM if you want to see me doing some streaming, which is, it's all right. So we have a nice time. What about you, Tony? Where can the people find you?
Oh, usual places. Twitter, which is at Tony Jameson, twitch.tv/Tony Jameson FM. And of course, we have the podcast to follow. Twitter feed, of course, now is FMTPod. And we have our own URL on YouTube, youtube.com/Football Manager Therapy. And you can also, we mentioned it before about wonderful communities, you can also support us on Patreon if you wish. Which is patreon.com/FMTPod. You can support the podcast from as little as £1 a month. That gets you early access to the weekly episodes, both audio and video. You get an extra bonus podcast a month, and that is for the price of the £3 membership. We brought it down to £1 because, you know what, times are hard. If you can afford to support that, that'd be wonderful. If not, not a trouble at all. We obviously have some other tiers as well, which involve discounts, access to save files, all that sort of stuff. But if you want to have a look, go and have a look. If not, not a trouble. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the chat with Kev. We hope we'll see you very soon on another episode of Football Manager Therapy.